Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off everything that I got for this first half of July, and surprisingly there's not a huge amount here, so hopefully this video should go pretty quickly. But I'll just get straight into it and I hope you guys enjoy. So first off, I have the most recent 2 issues of the Bubbles fanzine, which is a work that's put out with a lot of really interesting interviews from people within the comics and manga industry, a lot of speaking with comics artists, with translators, with a lot of different individuals talking about a lot of different types of comics. It runs the whole breadth of what is available in comics, mostly independent stuff, and it's a very, very high quality zine. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. The interviews are really, really wonderful. They also have particular parts like things I found on eBay and what I've been reading or what you should be reading, sort of recommendations for recent comics, and it's really, really good. Definitely one to check out if you haven't yet. This particular issue 3, we do have Ryan Holmberg with an interview in here. He has worked on a lot of the Garo works that we have seen released, so if you are a fan of Gekika, then you should definitely check this one out. There's a lot of really interesting insight. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be gained if you have an interest in the comics industry from these particular zines. And at $6 a pop, plus shipping, of course, they're a pretty good investment and definitely worth the look. Next, we have some actual English language comics. This one in particular is a Kickstarter release reward that I finally received, and this is Cut Time. So the first book of this by Judy Jong, and this is a fantasy web comic. There are lots of magic, lots of zodiac stuff that is pretty fun. Lots of birds as well, like bird themes. I follow this artist as well as the comic itself online. I follow her on Twitter. She's very good at what she does, and when I saw there was a Kickstarter for this particular story, I was really happy to pick it up. If you like sort of classic fantasy anime, then you should probably give this one a look. It is definitely that kind of thing, and as you can see, very, very beautiful. I really, really, really like this story. And yeah, really happy to finally have this book in my hands. I do think it should be available for wider purchase now that the Kickstarter awards have started going out. As an addition to the book itself, just as a backer extra, I did also get this print of our characters. Yeah, so that's really nice, and I'm looking forward to rereading this part of the story because it's been a little while. There should be, I believe, 12 of these books by the time it's finished, one for each part of the Zodiac. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but so far so good. So next, in English language comics, I finally got volume 2. It only came out this last week, so it's not so much finally, but I've been waiting for it for so long. And that is volume 2 of Heartstopper, and this is by Alice Oseman. It is another webcomic that is actually published on Tapas and follows the story of Nick and Charlie and their, falling in love. They're 2 British teens, kind of classmates. One who is well known and kind of ostracized at school for being gay. The other who is really trying to become his friend, and he's the more typical jock, but like a nice jock. He's not really with a terrible attitude or anything, and they're slowly, getting closer in their relationship. It's so sweet, guys. Oh my god. If you like Bloom, if you like even, I guess, like Gopher Nakamura, just a really sweet, simple falling in love story with its ups and downs, its pressures, but like a really solid couple, then definitely definitely try this one. The first volume I got a while ago via a Kickstarter, and that was how I was introduced to the story, but all the subsequent books, I believe, are just going to be more regular releases. Alice Oseman is very well known as a novelist. She's written a lot of novels, many that do feature LGBT characters or relationships, and it is sort of interlinking as well, because one of her main books features the older sister of one of the characters in this, so they all are set like within the same world, or I guess, and with the same sort of larger group of people, but are interwoven. It's like Clamp, but not nearly as confusing. So yeah, really, 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 really wonderful. And if you like LGBT stories, if you like, you know, gay romance, especially like sweet and just really, really lovely and heartwarming, and fairly realistic as to the teen experience and first love and that sort of thing, definitely check this one out. It's so good. Now, I actually have some anime that I got secondhand for a really, really good price, so I'll talk about that at the end. But this is the 2 Ghost in the Shell standalone complex seasons, so the television version of this story, plus the OVA Solid State Society, which is kind of the third part / sequel to the television series. Obviously, Ghost in the Shell is a classic. I own both the anime films as well. I've seen various iterations, the newer reboot, things like that. I have not seen the Hollywood film, and I have yet to read the manga, although I do own it. So I own it digitally thanks to Humble Bundle, so that was great. But a story that a lot of people know, a series that a lot of people love. It was on the Adult Swim block for a number of years. I don't know if it's still on there, but that was where I first came across it, even before I knew what anime was. And it's a cyberpunk series about Major Kusanagi, who is a cyborg, and her team, her elite squad, who basically deal with like cyber terrorism and crimes of that nature. It's really, really, really good. I think with a lot of cyberpunk series you see, but especially this one, even as it gets older, it's still very, very relatable and applicable, even more so than when it was first coming out, because of how much technology has become part of our lives. You can see a lot of the problems they're dealing with in the show, or a lot of the ideas that they discuss, are things that we now have to consider as possibilities for the future, or the reality of certain things in some cases. Really interesting, you know, kind of thing to put your mind to for a lot of reasons. But Ghost in the Shell, a classic one that a lot of people love, a lot of people grew up with. There is a US release, but the subtitles aren't great on that. This is, as I said, the standard release for the Australian side. It is basically a copy of the UK one, and our subtitles have been fixed up from the US one, so I know we don't have that particular problem. I did previously own the Korean set of this, but sold it because as beautiful as those boxes were, I really don't need like a super duper fancy limited edition set for this series, just because I love it, but it's not like my favorite. And yeah, you know, I'm fine with just the standard sets. In particular with this set though, it just came out recently, maybe 2-3 months back now, and retail price is about, I don't want to say like $80, $80 to $90 Australian new, which is fairly typical pricing, especially for so many episodes like this. And it is technically the first time it's been available on Blu-ray outside of the limited edition, so that's fairly standard. But I was on a website for a branch of stores, or a chain of stores called CEX. I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't think it's sex, I think it's CEX, which is a British company, a British store chain. I know that they exist in England. I did not know they existed in Australia until very recently, but they do. There's no store in my state, but they do have an Australian website, and I'm sure that they have stores in the East Coast. But on their website, I was browsing. I actually found a really good deal on the second half of the first season of Little Busters on Blu-ray, which is hugely out of print everywhere, all over the place. Here in Australia, you cannot find it, not even secondhand anywhere. And anywhere that you could, you're probably looking at paying over $100 for like the complete set. So with part 1, but part 1's very easy to find. You can find it for like less than $20. Whereas part 2 is like, you're going to be shelling out some cash for that. But I was looking for that and hadn't had any luck. Nothing on eBay, nothing on Gumtree, not even Cash Converters or anywhere else. And of course, it just completely disappeared from JB Hi-Fi and places like that. But I found it on CEX for $8. $8! And it came and it was perfect. Basically new condition, just out of the plastic. I don't know what, how, what, why, but we do get some really, really great deals. And so, again, by that same token, I was looking for this series. Not this series, I was just browsing, but normally the series is about $90, and I was able to find this for less than $30. I honestly didn't believe that this was actually the release. I thought it was a mislabeled item, either the television show on DVD or maybe the film on Blu-ray. I didn't know. It did say it was the Blu-ray set. It did say standalone complex. So, you know, it was listed properly, but I just couldn't believe it. So I took a gamble, I spent the money, and it shipped to me, and I was so happy that it was the real thing. So if you're Australian, if you like anime or media in general, they have games and stuff like that as well. Check them out. They are, and you don't mind, you know, second half, they're in pretty great condition. Definitely check out CEX. First from manga, we have Volume 2 of Witch Hat Atelier by Kamame Shirahama, and this is a fantasy series about a young girl called Coco who discovers magic and how it is done, which is not usual. It's kept very secret, but she runs into some trouble when her magic goes out of control and is taken under the apprenticeship of Quifrey, I believe his name is, and in order to become a more established and proper witch herself. So this is a really interesting new seinen series. Shirahama has a really interesting premise with the magic system being illustrative, using symbology to create magic. And I think most people should be able to agree that art is definitely something that is acquired through a lot of hard work and a lot of time dedicated to it. The more time you've spent practicing, the better you are at it. And that's just extended here in this series. It's not something that is innately, I mean, people do have talents for things, but the only way you become a good artist is if you dedicate the time to it. Which is something that I do think people don't understand when it comes to art. Hopefully you should. Hopefully you should realize that with any talent comes hundreds upon thousands of hours of practice to get that good. But this, because the magic system is done in this way that it utilizes art and very precise, perfect art, it just highlights this need for practice, precision. And because Coco herself is a new witch, a new apprentice, she hasn't spent years and years studying like the other girls have. She has a disadvantage in that she's not really set with the ground rules. She's trying to muddle her way through it, but she does have an advantage in that makes her a lot more flexible, a lot more creative, a lot more willing to just kind of experiment and think of spells and think of things that other other witches may not immediately think of, because they have a very set, specific idea of how things should work, how things should be done. And so in that way, Coco is definitely in an advantage comparatively. But this particular volume, we see more of the conflict between the pointed caps and the brimmed caps. The pointed being sort of the light, the more judicial, and the ones that are seen as the good guys of this piece. And then we have the brimmed hats who dabble more in forbidden magic, magic that affects the human body. And because of Coco's mishap earlier on in the series, in the previous volume, when she first discovered magic, there's definitely a link to the brimmed caps there. And so both sides have an interest in her and her involvement, and hope that she can, find the link or track them to the pointed caps, to bring them to justice, as it were. It's interesting. Obviously, there are a lot of different stories like this. It's done in a very approachable way. I definitely liked the particular character who is focused on in this book, and her own struggles with dissatisfaction and trying to prove herself and trying to get better and to grow up and become the witch she wants to be. And especially in relation to Coco and sort of their different positions in the Atelier currently. So it's really well done. I always enjoy these books, and there's obviously more coming. It's ongoing in Japan. I think there's 4 or 5, maybe even 6 books out now, but not too long yet. And if you are looking for a magical little seinen that definitely gives off like Ghibli-esque vibes, check this one out. Next is the most recent volume of Again by Mitsuru Kubo. This is volume 9. And this is the almost end, I guess, of the school festival or play arc, the drama club arc. This particular part of the story, the Oendan, is helping the singular member of the drama club to put on a show, a musical, in fact, called the I Want to Die musical, which in this volume becomes viral. They've posted a couple videos on YouTube, and obviously with such a provocative name, the idea that high schoolers are putting this out during a school festival, it draws a lot of attention, and people are like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it gets shared around a lot. A lot of people are very, very interested in it. But then also at the same time, a lot of people are very concerned. This idea that young people are talking about such fatalistic things. And of course the school is not happy. They don't want their reputation, worsened by this. So they ask them to change the show. And the teacher is put like very strict duty. He's all on board for this. He's trying to take a more hands-on approach, which previously he just didn't care about the club or the members at all. So it's really like it. Oh my god. I'm sure that people who I find that Kubo's writing is very, very relatable in a painful way, because I feel like even if you haven't experienced these exact things, these exact events, a lot of the things, a lot of the feelings, a lot of the just situations that you have to deal with in high school are just painfully relatable and oh so true. This idea of the school not caring about something until it causes negative press is such like it's constantly in anime, because at least in my experience, it's constantly a thing that is true anywhere. A lot of the times faculty doesn't care about what students get up to until parents start complaining or the press starts complaining, people start complaining. Then then things get done. And I really liked how this particular arc framed this idea of I want to die and negativity in high school and being a teenager and feeling overwhelmed, and how that's not necessarily a inherently negative thing, and how characters and individuals use that type of negativity as a release of frustration and a way to cope. It's really, really well done. Again, I really enjoy this series. I've said this a million times in regards to Kubo and her work, but this one in particular is so, so, so good at being a comic. It's expressive. The characters are all very engaging, even if they're not inherently likable. It's fun, funny, very witty and sarcastic and sardonic, that as someone who has been out of high school for a very long time, almost 10 years now I've been out of high school, but it still reminds me so much of my own experience, and I think it will be familiar for a lot of people who grew up in this current generation of high school. Like, I know I graduated a long time ago, but this generation who've grown up with much more access to social media and expressing themselves online, and sort of this inherent social anxiety and not knowing how to interact with people face to face. All of these things are very, very relatable for a lot of people who are out of school or still in school, things like that. Yeah, this is a really, really, really funny series. And as I've said with all of Kubo's works, but especially this one, is very unpredictable. So if you think you know where it's going, it probably isn't going that direction. And I really enjoyed this arc. I know some people aren't super into it currently, but I think it just continues to get better and better. And we are so close to the end now. It's only 12 volumes. I'm going to be sad when it's over, guys. I'm going to be very, very sad. Next is a debut title from a publisher that I don't really buy anything from, so this is a little bit of an oddity, and I haven't actually read this book because I just got it today, but this is volume 1 of Ryuko by Eldo Yoshimizu. So this is a story about a young woman who is from a Yakuza family. She's trying to find out what happened to her mother and, you know, sorts of things in her past. She is a no-nonsense lady who will be happy to shoot you in the face if she needs to. So lots of action, lots of resourceful women, lots of, you know, dark, gritty revenge and betrayal and those sorts of things. I do believe this is a 2-volume series. Yoshimizu has a lot of his work for this title available online, his illustrations and things like that. As I said, I haven't actually sat down and read this, but when I saw the art for it, and it has a lot of really positive buzz in other markets, because it's already been released in both French and I think Spanish. So I really wanted to try it. And this is from Titan Books. They have the only thing I know from them is the Shock manga here. Obviously they've got Assassin's Creed stuff too. I don't really follow their publications, but this is, I guess, technically their first manga that's not based off of something else. I remember, I mean, the Sherlock manga is actually, like, it's a manga. It's Japanese and produced as a manga, but it's more so for fans, whereas this, you don't need to have seen anything to be a fan of it or to read it. I guess technically you don't, I don't know. Just seems like a weird thing to me, but I have wanted to read this for a little while. The artwork in it is beautiful, and if you like action and dark stories, I guess it's sort of a Golgo 13-esque type of story, maybe with I don't know. It's one that is very curious, and as I said, I haven't heard a lot from Titan Comics before, but I look forward to this book, and it looks to be in a pretty pretty good release from them. Finally, for manga, we have Little Miss P by Ken Koyama. This is a single volume book by Yen Press, and this is the fun little collection of stories about, I guess, various women and when Little Miss P comes to visit them, i.e. when they have their period. It's interesting. I really like books like this that can destigmatize topics, especially in regards to women's topics. And thankfully, I would hope the conversation about menstruation, about periods, is slowly becoming less of one to be stigmatized and embarrassed about, because I know a lot of people, previously it was something that wasn't talked about. It was something they were embarrassed about. And it was sort of like, oh, you just talk about that whispered under your breath because it might make people uncomfortable. But thankfully, hopefully, that's changing. And I do think that regardless of whether you menstruate or not, obviously myself I do, but a lot of people do not, roughly 50% of the world does. And whether you do not menstruate, you will probably have someone in your life who does. Your mother, a partner, sister, cousin, whomever. You are going to have to deal with this issue at some point, and it's much better to have a rational and open and just normal idea about it. It's not this taboo subject. It's not gross and weird and embarrassing and dirty, and it's something that affects a lot of people for a long part of their life. Personally, I'm very lucky in regards to my period. I would say I'm very normal. I get pretty bad cramps, and it's generally on the longer end, but I don't really have to worry about PMS, and I don't have some of the more debilitating pain like a lot of people do. But then, of course, there are other people who have very light periods who don't even need to even think about taking a painkiller. So I really appreciate that this book does recognize that as well, that different people have different experiences with their periods, and that no two people are the same, and even if you do have a period, you need to stay empathetic to other people, because sometimes they do have it way worse. They have a lot more pain. They can't do the same things that you can when you're on your period. And like for me, I have a lot of friends who are girls. I have friends who suffer from polycystic ovarian syndrome. I have friends who suffer from endometriosis, which are two very, very painful. So they have other issues, and there's a lot of things like that in women's health that affect a lot of people, but we don't have any cures or anything for that. Not even really a proper understanding, just because, again, up until very recently, the subject was seen as very taboo and not talked about. It's interesting. I liked how in this book as well there was this open dialogue and teaching between the generations of individuals, of women and these girls who are coming into their period, who are getting their first period, and the more experienced woman, helping them through that. And there isn't this sense of shame of, something's wrong and we don't talk about that and we don't deal with that. It's a fun little book. I also appreciated, because as I said, everyone has a different experience with their period, and usually it's, frustration, it's upset, it's, feeling like crap for a week and not being able to really get anything done. But sometimes it's a relief. For some people who don't have a regular cycle, or who are stressed out about the possibility of being pregnant, the fact that they are getting their period can be a huge relief, or give a sense of normalcy in an otherwise very stressful period of their time. It's really, really, really good. I liked one of the last stories, or the last story in this book, in regards to the actual development of women's products in Japan and how far they were behind to the Western world and the US in particular. yeah, it's a fun little book. It's not going to be for everyone, but if you like stories of this nature that are kind of witty and sardonic and can talk about a fairly complicated and sometimes stigmatized issue in a very open way with no judgment or no shame, then it's always a plus from me. And I know a couple other people have already picked this up and have really enjoyed it. It's not going to be for everyone, but I do think that if you are someone who it does feel embarrassed about this subject or doesn't really know where to start or anything like that, it might be a good book for you to read to just get you to find a more approachable way to think of periods and menstruation, because it's not scary. Honestly, it's not at all, and a lot of people have to deal with them. So the sooner you can find this and grapple with this idea that, yeah, okay, this is fairly normal and this is how, you know, it's dealt with, and oh, maybe I should, you know, keep that in mind when people are upset, or I shouldn't patronize people when certain things are happening. Yeah, it's really, really well done, and I think a lot of people can gain some insight from this book, because it's not like super educational, it's not meant to be a textbook or anything like that, but I do think it makes it much easier for people to start thinking about this topic in a way that they may otherwise not have and really have no interest in either way. So that is everything that I got for the first half of July. Oh my goodness. Not actually a huge amount items wise. I've got 4 manga and then a couple comics and some bits and bobs here and there, but plenty of stuff to really be excited about nonetheless. Really, really happy we've gotten Little Miss P. That was one that I've been, you know, very, very excited about ever since it was announced. I know some people thought it more so a joke, but it's really good. I'm really happy to see the continuation of both Witch Hat and Again. And Ryuko is one that I've been wanting to read for a long time, so that was really, really good. Yeah. Also excited to finally get Kickstarter rewards in from Cut Time, and Heartstopper is always just really lovely. I'm going to leave the links to both of those comics in the description below if you're wanting to read them for yourself. And I will also leave the link to the Bubbles zine storefront as well if you are wanting to get that for yourself because you're curious. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on any of these titles, if you're reading any, if you agree with what I said, disagree, love them, hate them. I do try to get to all of your comments, as you guys know. I love reading them, and I really appreciate hearing your thoughts. But as always, I will leave the link to my Twitter in the description. I will also leave the link to my Instagram in the description because I have one of those now, as well as my Book Depository affiliate link and all of those other links as well. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.